Hello and welcome to another episode of Guess That Record. I am your host, Jackson Reed. This is the show where we talk about music and try to figure out which album I pulled from my collection. Thanks to you, the listeners, for tuning in to another episode. Our guest is a world-class musician from Kingston, Jamaica, one of the most in-demand reggae drummers of his generation. He's had the chance to record and perform with legendary acts, including Bob Marley and the Wailers, Peter Tosh, Jimmy Cliff, and many more. He's currently performing with Ziggy Marley, who will be on the road this fall with Burning Spear. I'm super excited to welcome Carlton Santa Davis to Guess That Record. How are you doing, Santa?
Man, I can't complain, man. You know, life is good, you know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Amidst everything else that's going on, if you notice, I'm in my little space
Mm-hmm.
where the magic happens, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And so are you in LA right now?
Yeah.
Nice.
Sure,
I
sure
love
am.
LA.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mhm.
It is great to be speaking with you today. Obviously I do my research for this show, so it was really cool to look at your career and see all the amazing records that you've played on, and excited to learn more about it.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, man, I think I've been very, I consider myself very fortunate to have been a part of a great movement, from a young age. And I'm still grateful, man, because, a lot of people would see me and say, man, you've been doing this, da, but they don't understand, you go through a lot, but I'm just really appreciative of the fact that I've been involved with so many great people in this business,
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, what can I say?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a privilege, it's a great privilege to be a part of such a great movement, Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're originally from Kingston, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, it's interesting kind of talking about, the movement of reggae, and, you have been around long enough to see the creation and the birth of it. And I was sort of curious, when you were younger, what kind of music did you listen to pre-reggae?
You know what? Okay, so of course, I grew up in the '60s, and we used to hear a lot of when I was growing up, there was one radio station in the early stages, right? It was a radio. It was called Radio RJR, Radio Jamaica, Radio Fusion. It was just one station, and we used to get a lot of our music from America, and because we used to get a lot of that, and they used to play a lot of American music, So I grew up listening to like the blues and the early stuff, like the Frank Sinatras, the Dean Martins, the Perry Como. It was kind of like that era, So
Mhm.
we listened to a lot of foreign stuff, and then of course we had our indigenous music, which is our mento. The whole thing was mento, drums and guitars and people singing and stuff, and then calypso, and then later on came the ska. So it was it was a blend of different types of music genres,
Mhm.
But and of course, people used to buy a lot of records because the main thing for entertainment back then was, people used to have their record players and the amplifiers or the stereos, whatever you call it back then. And they used to buy records. And so I used to hear a lot of jazz, a lot of classical music. You have, people in Jamaica are very diverse, Jamaican people are very musical people, So I was exposed from an early age, to all these different genres, So that's how the whole thing happens. And then, of course, ska, which was the thing that started, that whole revolution of where it is today, So So that's I grew up listening to all types of music, know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
mainly we used to get a lot of our input from the USA and of course, Europe and stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Mhm.
growing up in Kingston, I have to imagine that it would have been pretty tough to procure a drum kit. So, how did you sort of gravitate towards drumming as your instrument?
Okay, well, it's a good story. Well, when I was 11 years old, um, there was a lot of things happening in Jamaica back then when I was a kid. There was a lot of drum corps, right? And
Hmm.
of course, my first aspiration was to join the military, because I used to like seeing the soldiers like during that Independence Parade and whatever, or any kind of little function, they would be playing drums and the bugles and stuff like that. So I got fascinated by that. So at 11 years old, there was a church by the name of St. Peter Claver, a Catholic church, and they had a drum corps. And I used to have to pass by there going to and from school. So I used to pass by, hear the bugles playing and the drums going off. And I was kind of wondering what it would be like, to be a part of something like that. So just this one day, because I would all be passing by coming from school, but then the gate would have been closed all the time. So this one day I decided I'm going over there. And for some weird reason, not weird reason, the gates were open. So I walked in. And it so happens that they were doing a recruiting drive for new people. I would say, hey, sign me up. I didn't know anything about drums or nothing. So I wanted to be a part of a drum corps. And that's how it all started. And that's where I started learning about rudiments but it was more, it was kind of like military stuff, marching and
Hmm.
drum and bugle corps. And that's where it all started, and then I, I just see the rest is history.
Yeah.
But that's where it all
Yeah.
started for me. Yeah.
Right.
St. Peter
And
Cleveland.
then, and how did you get into like playing in bands and this kind of stuff?
Okay, so um I we had a drum room where I was what they call a quartermaster. I take care of all the equipment, make sure what goes out comes back in and such the like, and keep the room in a uniform. Just like they do in the military, they have these guys who do these types of work. So um it's funny. Check this out. So I used to play, you would call me like a master then, but I wouldn't want to put it like that. But I would play all the drums. I was a snare drummer, then I was a tenor drummer, which now you call a tom on
Hmm.
a regular kit, and I play the bass drums and the cymbals. It's kind of fitting that I played all these different pieces that actually make up a drum kit.
Yeah.
So one day I was in the room and there was a band, there was this guitar player. His name is Bobby Aiken. He was a guitar player. He had a group in Jamaica called Bobby Akins and the Caribbean. And back then it was the Rocksteady era, and he was one of the players, the people who were a big part of the creation of that. So he was giving guitar lessons at the church that time. So I was in the drum room and I set up the bass drum, not knowing what I'm doing, but I'm kind of mimicking what I see, you know, our drum set would look like. So I put this big marching bass drum up, knowing that all you're gonna get is boom, boom. You're not gonna get a solid hit. Anyway, that's beside the point. So I set it up, and there was a little rinky-dinky looking thing, a pedal. I said, okay, let me put it on. I'm just trying to go by ear. And then there was a snare drum, which at the time I didn't know that was a piccolo, a small piccolo drum, snare drum. So I put it on, and I didn't I didn't have a hi hat stand. It was just a little cymbal stand that you screw it onto the drum and stuff like a concert kind of thing. So I'm in there just playing boom, 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 boom. I'm just messing around trying to mimic what I see drummers do. And the guitar player, he heard me And he came into the room, and he was the first person that pointed me in the direction of how to play. And back then it was rock steady, because the music had started to slow down from ska. You know, ska was an upbeat music, and it was in the rock steady era now. You know, whereas like 2 and 4 and 8 notes on the snare, on the hi-hat and stuff like that. So he came in. I was playing like doom bang doom bang, just like what we're doing now. You know, but he said, "No, man, drop the snare and the kick and play 8 notes on the." But I didn't have a hi-hat, but he was indicating to, and that's how I started. He pointed me. It's a guitar player, not a drummer. A guitar player, and his name is. I have to give him respect. His name is Bobby Aking, and he was the first person who pointed me in the direction. And then I started practicing, because I had access to that, that system. I still didn't have a real like trap set, so I kept messing with that and keep going. So that's how it actually started for me.
Right.
Yeah.
This episode of Guess That Record is sponsored by Marvel Marketing. Marvel Marketing is an award-winning digital marketing company headquartered in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Working with clients in different industries from all over North America, including Canada, the United States, and Mexico. Marvel Marketing services include website design and development, website maintenance, search engine optimization, public relations services, and social media management, amongst others. To find out more, visit marvelmarketing.ca. This episode of Guess That Record is sponsored by Guitarworks. One of Canada's top independent music stores for over 30 years, Guitarworks carries a huge selection of musical instruments from the biggest brands in music, including Gibson, Fender, Martin, Yamaha, and Paul Reed Smith. Visit any of their 2 Calgary locations or shop online at guitarworks.ca and join the Guitar Perks program to earn money back with every purchase. Guitarworks, your total guitar store. This episode of Guess That Record is also sponsored by Recordland, home to the largest selection of music in Canada. Buy, sell, and trade tapes, CDs, and vinyl. Located in Calgary's Inglewood neighborhood on 9th Avenue Southeast, visit them in person or on Instagram at Recordland Calgary. Do you remember what was the first like professional group you got to work with?
Okay, well, there was a group called the Graduates. Kind of fitting, right? Because after I left drum corps, I was like, coming on 69. I think I was 16 years old at the time. And I graduated from drum corps because I was getting too old for, well, not, I don't think I could have stayed longer, but I left the group that time, And then the first group I got involved with this guy. He was living in the U.S. at the time, and he moved back to Jamaica, and he had this group called the Graduates, right? And that's the first time I actually had real access to a real drum set, So now I have to, in my mind, I have to say, okay, now I have to transfer all that knowledge that I had to this situation, So now I'm going to sit behind a real kid, so I'm picturing in my mind, okay, I do this here. So it took a while, but I got used to that. So that's that's where my professional, what you call secular music career started.
Right. And, then throughout the 70s, of course, you start playing with bigger and bigger groups. And I think, arguably your greatest claim to fame was when you got to work with Bob Marley and the Wailers. Was Africa Unite the first song you got to work with Bob?
No. Okay, so let me kind of back up a little bit. So
sure.
The Graduates was like the first group I played with. Now, the Soul Syndicate, which I'm still a member of, we still, most of us are still here. Now, the bass player, Fulu, his dad and my stepdad used to work at the same place, right? Like in America, you have Caltrans or whatever. You have these people that deal with roads, fix the roads and all that kind of stuff. It was called the Public Works Department. So my stepdad and Fully's dad used to work at the same place, and that's how that relationship started. And Fully's dad started a band for him because he loved music. So I ended up, I was playing with the graduates, and then somebody told me one day that the Soul Syndicate band, which is the people that I knew, I grew up with them, they wanted a drummer. So that was where my career really started off, like real, like to the point. So I went there, did an audition, and I was in. And that's where I started playing full time, like doing a lot of shows. And the first time I went into the studios was with that group, you know? So after a while, we started to become known in the music industry, you know? Because we were a band playing together. We used to do a lot of live shows, and people saw us and said, wait a minute, this guy by the name of Bunny Lee, he was a big record promoter or producer in Jamaica at the time. And he came and he hired the band, the whole band, took us to the studio. We didn't know anything about session fees or whatever, but that's beside the point. It was getting our feet wet, you know? So went to the studio with him, and that's where our recording life started. And then people started knowing about us. Now, fast forward to Lee Scratch Perry, who was the producer for the Wailers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he hired us also to go to the studio. Now, by this time, the Wailers were a big group in Jamaica. Bob, Peter, and Bunny. You know, they were a top group at the time. But he was now doing some production work for them. And he called us to the studio. And we did, I think the first song I did for the Wailers it's called Sun is Shining. That's the very original version of that song called Sun is Shining.
Mm-hmm.
And the song that came out to be Duppy Conqueror, I played on the original version that they wanted, but I guess they didn't like that version, so they redid it with Family Man and Carly. But the version that we did way back in the 70s, there was this hoax going around. I think what you would call a prank right now. People were going around and say there was a coffin running around the town, and this guy asking for Mr. Brown. So Bob and the Wailers, they wrote a song about it, and they used that rhythm, right? It's called Mr. Brown. So the first recording I did with the Wailers, with Bob and them, was the original version of Sun is Shining and Mr. Brown. And then later on, we went to a studio called Dynamic Sounds. I don't know, it could be the other way around. But anyway, I ended up doing another song with them called High Tide. It's kind of like a high tide, low tide. It's kind of like a ballady kind of song, like, you know. But anyway, so that's how my whole life started with these guys, you know, when they were still a group together, you know what I mean? So, and that was for me like, wow, you know, I'm in the company of royalty, because these people, they were top of the top, you know. You talk about the Wailers and all these, you know, these powerful people, and I'm working with these three people, and then I ended up working with all three of them, and then working for them individually. You know, I did live shows with Bob like one time in Jamaica, and then Bunny Wailers, I did shows with him. Then I toured with Peter Tosh. So then I worked with them as a group, but then worked with them individually to realize, wow, these three brothers, they are powerful in their own right. You know, they are creative people in their own right. You know, so that I can say I'm so grateful for that, because I was in a fortunate situation where I get to work with the Wailers, and then get to work with them individually. So you get to know them, you know, as a group and as individual entities. So that was where it started, you know?
Yeah. And I was going to say, I've seen a few interviews with you going back to Africa Unite, and it's kind of an interesting story how you ended up on that song. Is that right?
Yeah. You see, the thing is in Jamaica, you as a musician back then, because there was a lot of that was a time when sessions, like recordings were happening. That was a time of like it was like a fire burning, recording, it was hot. So you have to be prepared. And when you're prepared and you know your stuff, people are gonna call you. Or if you're somewhere, if you're nearby a studio and somebody want to record, they don't have to try to find you. You're there. So
Mhm.
what happened on this particular day, because I worked for Bob before, Bob knew me. We were friends. It wasn't like I'm some strange guy. He knew me and he knew what I did. I knew what I was about. That particular day, Africa Unite, I was supposed to do a recording session with the Burning Spear, Winston Rodney. That's that day.
Mhm.
And I was there waiting for, because Burning Spear, he lived in St. Anne, which is like maybe about 2 hours away, whatever. It's like in the country. So I was at the studio at Tough Gang waiting for him to come, because I was going to do some recording for him. So Bob came around and he said, "Oh, what's going on today?" I said, "Well, I'm going to do some recording for Burning Spear." So, "Oh, okay, all right, cool." So he walked back to the back. And I was still there waiting. And he came around again like a second time and said, "What happened? The man don't come yet?" I said, "No, I'm still waiting. I guess he's coming from the country, so, it might just be a traffic hang up or whatever." So I'm still there chilling. He came back around after a while. He came back around and he said, "The man don't come yet." I said, "No." Him say, "What? Studio time burning. I'm a musician here. Let's go make a song." That was it. And I went into the studio, Africa Unite,
Mhm.
because he had this song, and it's so funny that at the time, I think Zimbabwe was having its independence, and I think they had invited him to come to Zimbabwe to be a part of the celebration. So I was part of a big thing by playing on that song, Africa Unite, which kind of resonates today in all of what's going on. But that's how it all started. You know,
Mhm.
it wasn't something that it was a planned situation. That I was there for him. I was there for somebody else. But being the type of person Bob Marley was, he he would work with anyone as long as he knows what you can do. And if you flop, then you flop. But it was always like that pleasure, that vibe, because you get this thing from Bob where he invites you in. You don't feel like an outsider. So when I went into the studio, I felt invited. I felt like, okay, I was appreciated enough for him to say, "Let's go and record a song with me playing drums." So for me, that is like, whoa, wait a minute. That it don't get no better than that.
Yeah.
So that's how that song recorded. It wasn't a
Yeah.
planned thing, but it was planned in the heavens, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another one that you played on with Bob was "Coming In From the Cold," and it's funny because I've been getting back into, or I have been getting back into Bob's music recently, and that was
Yeah.
a song that I just kind of missed initially, and then this time around I've been like, oh, this is a great song. So it was kind of funny once this interview was scheduled to find out that you played the drums on that song as well. So what was
Okay.
the story behind that?
It's the same kind of situation. Now, this
Right.
is the session that I came to the studio that day looking for somebody, right? So I opened the control room door and I looked in, and he and his regular musician, minus the drummer, they were in there trying to make a song. I guess it was the same song, Coming In From the Cold, right? Yeah, it was coming. They were trying to record a song. So being as proficient, I mean, these musicians they could play different instruments. So I looked through the window and he saw me and he said, "Close the door, don't make this man leave."
Mhm.
It was just, it was Bob had a lot of humor too. So he was like, "Close the door, don't let this man leave at all." And I was like, he said, "Come inside the studio." I mean, come on now, this is Bob Marley. I had something to go do. But I couldn't tell Bob Marley no. I couldn't say, "No, I can't do it. I got somewhere to go." No, 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 no. I forget about everything else. So I went into the studio, and he was sitting on the stool, and he said they're recording the song. So all the musicians switch back to their place. Bass, Family Man to his bass, Tyrone to his keyboards, and that song. Let me tell you, that song was one cut.
Mm.
That song you heard, there wasn't over and over trying to make it happen. He played the guitar, the riff, that riff that he did. He said, "This is how he's gonna start it, and then I'm gonna jump in."
Yeah.
So what that song you heard, it was the only cut I can remember making, because that drum fill, I didn't even think about it, because he's playing this, but then when he did that, normally the traditional or the normal thing to do is just make like a rat doom, But because my mind, I'm thinking, okay, how can I make this musical and interesting from somewhere in just waiting for that open space to put a fill. So I just followed it up. Rat doom, ting, 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 bah. And that was the only cut. No, I'm telling you this because maybe if I'd done it a second time, you'd never heard that fill. Because I'm always like, oh, let me try something different, But that was the first and only cut.
That's amazing.
No, it's years later. I didn't even know this at the time. It was years later I heard his graphic artist, God bless his soul, he passed away a little while ago, Neville Garrick. Neville Garrick was doing an interview, and he was talking, and then he said something that kind of piqued my interest. Like, what? That was the first recording Bob did when he came back from exile. There was some crazy stuff that went on in the 70s, and Bob just said, you know what, I got to chill this place out a little bit. So he was in England for a while. I didn't know that I played, and when Neville Garrick said that was the first recording Bob did when he came back to Jamaica, I was like, what? I actually played on the first recording that Bob did when he arrived back in, and at the time I didn't know that. It was years later when Neville Garrick was doing this interview that I realized how significant and how important that day really was. So, my encounter with Bob, was, and, I learned so much from Bob Marley as far as how to lock into a groove, because I consider myself, back then I was kind of like a wild, I'm wild, aggressive drummer, I'm playing hard stuff, a bunch of triplets and doing all kind of stuff. But I found out that when you're in the studio with Bob Marley, there was a magic about Bob that you have to assimilate. You have to come down to, not coming down, but you have to go up to his level of where he's at musically, No matter how wild or crazy you think you were, when Bob is playing, you got to lock into that groove. But it was fun, because I learned that less is more, And he likes for you to do things. He's not telling you, oh, don't do this, don't do that. He allows you to, and if you make, of course he's going to tell you if you're doing too much. Yeah. But I get that feeling from him that, okay, what you're doing is accepted. So I carried on, So, man, I consider that a blessing, and I've been working with. I work with the whole family, It's so fortunate for me to work with him. Now I'm working with his eldest son. Come on, don't get no better than that, I mean, how often does stuff like that happens, Yeah. We work with Dad, and then we did a tour one time, Roots Rock Reggae tour, and that was all the brothers, you know what I mean? And now I've been working with his son for all these years, you know what I mean? So, man, it don't get no better than that.
Absolutely, yeah. I would love to kind of get some of your takes on, how to play reggae. I once saw a quote from Stuart Copeland, who's the drummer for The Police, which is, of course, a band that had a lot of influence from reggae. And it was interesting to hear him sort of talk about the difference between rock and roll drumming and reggae drumming, where rock and roll, you know, the downbeat is on 2 and 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And reggae, typically the downbeat is on 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Would you say the timing is one of the most difficult parts of reggae in your experience?
Listen. You know, much respect to Stuart Copeland, you know? But listen, reggae music is a different music. Reggae music, the accent of reggae music. You see, rock and roll music play on a hot beat. So they will count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? Reggae music, the accent, where the drop is 2 and 4. So, okay. Let me just.
Sure.
My drum kit is right here. I don't know how much you can hear because I don't want to make too much noise in the air. All right. So, all right. Let me see. So it's 2 and 4. So people have this misconception of reggae. So okay. So I'm playing this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2. That is what confused people. It confused people because you're playing. If you notice, I'm playing 8 notes. Tit, tit, tat, tit. I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that 3, it's in there because you're counting 4. But the accent where we're dropping, the accent is 2 and 4. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how we count it. Right? Some people say 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's different ways of counting, like dealing with bars and tempos and timing and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know where Stuart Copeland is saying he's speaking his, you know, whatever his knowledge is of reggae. So reggae is a different culture. We play on the downbeat. Not the upbeat. We play it down, boom. We hit it, boom. What is that? No, button. Rock and roll is like that. You're hitting on the upbeat. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Button. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Down 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where you get that motion, that skank, that vibe. It's a vibe music, and it's a culture because, you know, let me tell you something. Reggae music is a part of the Jamaican culture. Jamaica, the Jamaican people, the way how they dance lets you know what you're supposed to play. You see what I'm saying? So it's part of that culture. It's part of that rhythmic. Jamaican people are rhythmic people. And if the rhythm is not moving the way how they move, that song is not going to go anywhere. Or that beat is not going to be accepted. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, much respect to Stuart because I know the brother, you know what I mean? And things like that. But it's not 3 and 4.
Right.
The accent what I just played for you is 2 and 4. That's we're counting where that drop is. 1, 2, 3, chick. Right? So we're not talking about 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're talking about the 2 and 4. You see what I'm saying? No. Check this out. So 1, 2, 3. Now, if I'm playing, check this out. There's a thing. If I'm playing open snare, right? I'm doing like 2, 3, 4. See that? 1, 2, 3. So you see that kick? If you're doing like what you'd call like a funk beat, then of course you're gonna hear that accent on the 3 there, on the kick. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So I think that's what he's talking about. He's talking about this, where the kick and then where the snare comes back. So, but normally we're talking about rock steady. We're playing a cross stick. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm playing open snare. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, technically, he's not wrong. He's not wrong, but that's not because normally, if you're going to do an open snare, of course, it's going to fall like that. You see what I'm saying? Because of the pattern of the kick. If the kick is doing boop, ba, boop, of course, that's the illusion or the concept you're going to get about that 3 and 4 because now the beat is cycling in that direction. But the original accent where ska rocksteady is 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Open snare, you're gonna get that illusion that it's dropping on 3 and 4. You see what I'm saying? And that's why a lot of people find it hard to play reggae because they're thinking on the theoretical knowledge of that cycle, thinking, wait a minute, no. Because I see a lot of people do that. I said, no. We dropping on just think of 2 and 4. That's our accent. We accent here. But we play open snare, of course it's gonna give you that illusion that it's 3 and 4. But it's not 3 and 4, it's 2 and 4.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's not wrong. He's not wrong in the sense of, but if you're talking about like side stick, 1 drop reggae, is 2 and 4. That's how I see it. And then, of course, you might talk to somebody else and they say the same thing as he does, But my thing is, I'm placing my old accent on 2 and 4, 8 beat because Bobby Akin, coming back to Bobby Akin, the guitar player, as the original, that's what he showed me. That's what I learned. So that's how I know, 2 and 4. That's the accent we're working with. And that's what give you that groove.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to say he's wrong. Or, that's not, he's not wrong,
Yeah.
But,
I do sort of see what you're saying, and now I'm going to be listening for that when
it's 2 and 4.
Some reggae.
It's really 2 and 4, and then you do like accents in between that. But if you're doing an open snare thing, then it's going to give you that illusion that it's doing 3 and 4 because the kick is going to doom, ba, doom, 4 on the snare. So it's cycling 1, 2, kick, snare 4.
Yeah.
So it's giving you that, but that's not how we counting it. That's not where the accent is. It's 2-4. It's 2-4. We accenting on 2-4. That's it.
Yeah,
that's reggae music,
Yeah.
2 and 4, and then you can drop all the little, because the reason for that, you put all the little seasoning, what we call it, the seasoning in between those spaces.
Yeah.
It's just part of that culture. It's nothing that you're trying to beat down what someone else says. But you have to understand. This is why I said to you before. The music is actually a cultural thing. It's something that we can tell someone where we working from. Because music in general is the same. I mean, all music are connected. So it's not like, reggae music is better than anything else. No, but it's just like anywhere you go. You go to Africa, you go to India. Whoa, wait a minute. You're talking about some different time signatures going on there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that's part of their culture. That's where they feel their pulses. You know what I mean? The Afro-Cuban music, they move it's a certain thing. So we right there, we have a different thing. It's more like a laid back. We kind of like cool, and the people, where the women dance and where the bridging, as we call it, the skank. They have these shoulder move and the foot movements, and so it's just a vibration.
Yeah, for sure.
If what I just said makes sense.
Oh yeah. No, I see where you're coming from for sure. Yeah. So you kind of mentioned it just a while back there, but you're currently with Ziggy Marley,
Oh yeah.
And I was kind of curious how long you've been working with Ziggy and how that sort of, how you ended up with him.
I ended up working with Ziggy after 9/11. After 9/11, 2000, 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. But I was,
Hmm.
it's funny. At the time when I started working with Ziggy, he had just transitioned to doing his solo stuff,
Hmm.
and that was kind of like his first going out as a solo artist. And his manager called me and said, at the time, said Ziggy wanted me to go on tour with him. I didn't think it was going to be a full time thing. I just figured, okay, I'm just going to do this show with Ziggy Marley. But man, I was more than happy, because like I said, I worked with his dad. I didn't tour with his dad, but now to go and tour with his son, come on now, So I jumped to it, and the rest is history. I've been with him since that time, like 20 something years now,
Hmm.
and enjoying every moment of it because that's another experience. Working with Zig is like, you know, you learn a lot too, because Ziggy very creative, and very, he's not the person who have this boring attitude where he's just gonna do things one way. He's always thinking of, we can do this another way too, and
Right.
it's like a constant progression. Like with Zig, not every musician could work with Zig Marley. Not every if you just come with a one track attitude, like okay, this is how I do it, and you have a problem because Ziggy is always looking for the next like an adventure, like okay, how can I make this way? How can I make it better? How can I make this song that's been made 10 years ago? How can I make it still fresh today? 10 years later,
Hmm.
you know, and that's the interesting thing about working with Zig,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've enjoyed it, I mean, cause people, it's funny. I used to be honest. I used to think that why why is he changing this? Because you're getting used to it, You don't want to get too used to an idea, but
Hmm.
if you have that mindset, but then I run into people, and people would say to me, like I remember one time we were on tour, and somebody was like, I think they followed us for like 3 or 4 shows, and they were like, "You guys, you playing new songs every night, or you know, but it sounds like upset." They were confused, and I was like, "How you mean?" They said, "Because you play this song, but then the next time I heard it, and I followed you guys for like 4 shows, and the song sounds different." I'm like, but it wasn't different in a bad way. They were like, it's kind of nice because it that's why they were like wondering if we were doing different songs, but it was the same song. But because Ziggy had this thing about trying to make the songs fresh every time, it's like production. Okay, I'm gonna make the song. Yeah, we did it like that last night, but today we're gonna do it like this.
Right.
And I realized that how effective that idea is because people come to me and say it, and they're like, they hear this and then they say, "Oh, it's that song," because he changed stuff up. So it's been great, man. I mean, I enjoy the adventure.
Yeah,
I'm
for
working with
sure.
someone like that who always seeking for something else, not just sticking to an idea or just an habit.
Yeah.
He's trying to make, if I can change this and tweak it some other way, and we're gonna make it work. And that's the interesting thing working with Zeke because keeps you on your toes.
Right. And having worked with both him and his dad, have you
Mhm.
found like what would have been the big sort of similarities and differences you've noticed?
Commitment, commitment. 'Cause Bob Marley was committed to what he was doing. Ziggy is the same thing. Ziggy is not into, oh, I want to be like everybody else. I don't even think he's thinking like I want to be like my dad because his dad do the work. He's doing his thing and he's doing it effectively. You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying? He's
Yeah.
always, like I say, he's always thinking, what he can do to make his thing be effective. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
Me as a musician, I see that, and and I tell you this: when I first started working with Ziggy, as I say, I was kind of a wild guy, like doing some stuff and coming from Peter Tosh, I toured with Peter Tosh, and that was more like a aggressive kind of thing. And when I started working with Zig, I had to tone myself down. I had to kind of retool the way I played because he wasn't into all that thing, like a bunch of fills and doing all these things. So I had to retool, and that's what they call about being humble and being respectful. Because some people don't care, you can do whatever, but he's very particular about how his music is how he wants to project his music. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you have to understand that. You have to understand, okay, yeah, he love to do all these things, but he's not that type of person. He wants the music to project. So now I've learned over the years working with him that I don't have to do too much. I don't have to put too many fills, and I learned to listen to him, I
Mhm.
learned to listen to what he's doing and be there for him, but don't get in his way.
Yeah.
Because a drum is a very noisy instrument, and very, like aggressive. So if when he's singing, I'm around here doing all these things, it will distract from the message. And so I had to, just like I said, I had to retool and learn all over again because I'm working with a different individual.
Yeah.
He's focused on, what he's doing and what he wants to project. So the thing is this, he don't mind you doing things, but when he's singing, stay out of his way. You know what I
Right.
mean? And he's not
Yeah.
going to tell you like that. You know what I mean? It's not like, but you have to know that because he wants to deliver a message and you run there taking a drum solo, whatever,
Mhm.
and that's not
Yeah.
cool. So so that's the thing, and that's progression, that's
Yeah.
about you understanding who you're working with. Some people say, yeah, man, let's go for it, blah, 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 blah. But no, Ziggy's message need to be heard,
Mhm.
It's not like a competition. He can't fight with the drums. If I'm going to slam that thing, he's not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah.
So I have to know that just be there, accompany him. Don't accompany him, don't compete with him.
Yeah. For sure.
Accompany the music, don't compete. Just stay out just be there, but don't be there, but don't be. Oh, what I said, be there, but don't get in the way then.
Yeah. For sure. And then, this fall, you guys are going on tour with Burning Spear, which is,
Yes,
that's
yes.
got to be a nice connection for you since
Oh,
we
yeah.
were just
Oh, yeah.
talking about them. What can audiences expect from this upcoming tour?
Dynamics, culture, spiritual vibration.
Mhm.
Because you're talking about two people that are on track with as far as humanity and culture. Because Burning Spear is a humanitarian within his music. He's a cultural person. Ziggy Marley, the same thing. Ziggy Marley is about the human family, the culture, morals. Because you're not going to come to a Ziggy Marley show and get any immoral behavior or immoral songs, lyrics. It's all about making you think. Sometimes I wish I could write songs like the way he does. Because I say, oh, he comes up with these things, and that is only to show you that he's a visionary, within his own right,
Mhm.
So expect a dynamic show because, as I say, it's two cultural minded people that's going to be doing this. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Santa. Well, we are going to guess that record here.
Uh-oh.
So I'll give you the rules for you and any new listeners. In this bag here is a record from my collection. I'm going to give you 3 clues about this album, and then we play a game of 20 questions to try and figure out what the record is. So, Santa Davis, are you ready to guess that record?
Well, I'm going to do my best because trust me, I mean, I don't. listen to a lot of. I just hear the songs. That depends on when they were recorded, how they were recorded. I don't
I
remember.
think you'll do good here. All right. Here
Let's
are
go,
your
let's see.
three clues.
Yes.
This album came out in the 1980s.
Mhm.
It is the highest charting album in the US for this artist,
Mhm.
and you played on this record. Question 1.
You mean you're talking about the artist, right?
The artist, yes.
I think it's Bob Marley.
It's not Bob Marley, but we have he has come up today. Question 2.
Oh, it's Ice Chart. And I played on that album. Wow. I mean, I've played on so many like hit stuff, you know.
I'll give you another hint here. This artist was a member of the Wailers.
Oh, you talking about Peter Tosh?
It is a Peter Tosh album. The record in question was Mama
Mama
Africa.
Yeah, because the reason why I said Bob, because Bob has been killing it, you know, for the past couple of years, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I played, I just played a couple of songs, you know, Africa Unite, Coming from the Cold, Chanting on Babylon, but you know, I was even thinking Mama Africa.
Yeah.
Which I should.
What can you tell the listeners about Mama Africa?
Man, Mama Africa was a very exciting album to make, you know. When we were recording that album, it was a magical time, you know. And the funny thing is, you know, Peter, he was funny. He acted as if he was working for us, not us working for him. Because, you know, he would like we would say, okay, he would sing the song and we say, all right, Peter, let's do this. So we came up with all the arrangements. He would just sit there, roll a spliff, and he just listen, and then we say, ready, let's go, you know? So it was exciting. It was exciting. Like even on Mama Africa, I'm doing that conga drum thing on the beginning, and it wasn't something that I was planning, but the song came out like that. And
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have a set of congas, so I went to Jimmy Cliff's studio and borrowed it. We get back to the studio and played on that. And then also that song, Johnny Be Good, right? That's the album, Johnny Be Good. He didn't really want to sing that song because Donald Kinsey, but God bless his soul, he passed away a little while back. He brought the song to Peter's attention. And Peter was like, you know, kind of Chuck Berry song. So Peter was like, yeah, but we can't, not going to be able to sing that song. And Donald was like, yeah, man, you can sing the song. So, well, the only way I'm going to sing this song, I'm going to have to change some of the lyrics, you know, which he did.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Know? So, but, and actually we recorded because he said he didn't want to do it, right? We recorded the rhythm anyway. Donald came with the arrangement. So we said, we're going to record the rhythm anyway, right? So we recorded it, and then he rewrote the lyrics. Changed a few words, you know. Yeah. And that was that. But it was really, really a great album to make, man.
I have to say, Johnny Be Good, like at first you're kind of like, oh, a reggae version of Johnny Be Good. And then when you hear it, it's like, it works so well. I feel like the story really fits Jamaica well when you think about it. Yeah. I was also kind of curious on the back cover here. Are you on any of these shots here?
Yeah, I'm doing at the left hand. Well, would that be? Guy? You're right. Yeah, that's that guy there. That's when my beard was black and I got locks. Nice. That's when I had locks and black beard and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now look at me.
It's Blah. In preparation for this interview was like the first time I've really listened to this record, and I've been very pleasantly surprised by how much I've enjoyed it. Um,
Right.
and I think songs like Mama Africa, Not Gonna Give It Up, and it's also interesting to kind of sort of see, going back to Africa. I think was that something on Peter's mind, I guess I'm trying to say
Oh yeah.
here.
Listen, you see Peter, you see those three brothers, Bob, Peter, and Bunny. They were musically diverse people. You know what I mean? They they were all about. I think okay, something that a lot of people don't know or would not know about Bob and Peter and Bunny. They read a lot. They didn't just get up, and I said this before. People think that these brothers just get up and smoke weed all day and just be high and stuff like that. They were informed. They knew what was happening because they read articles, they read books. They they were very intelligent when it comes to deal with their work. So, and then spiritually, they were connected to everything. And the thing about them was that they wanted their music to be of substance, be of something that is uplifting to humankind, not just one set of people. Yes, Africa, of course, was paramount, but they were also talking about the unification of everyone. You know what I mean? Everyone coming together, regardless. Because regardless of how we slice it, we are all Africans. You know what I mean? Life begins somewhere, and that was Africa. We can't look at it like some strange thing and all this to to see what they put down. People would hear them singing about Africa and stuff like that, and thinking that it's anti-white or anti-whatever. It wasn't about that. You know what I mean? They were just talking about the origin of life itself. You know what I mean? Because we are all
Mhm.
God's people, and they were anti-establishment, anti-evil, against people. You know what I mean? So the thing is this, their music was all about lifting people's minds out of the gutter. So yo, we are one people regardless. We need to just come together, learn. Can we listen to even Peter's last album? He have a song that you have to come together, learn to love and respect each other. You know,
Mhm.
that's how black people are, Indian people are, white people. It's for everyone. We need we need to understand that we are here. What are we
Yeah.
gonna do? Don't like each other because of some color or where you think you come from, and they weren't about that. Their music was about unification of human beings. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's the thing I can say about those three brothers. It wasn't anything evil or bad or anything. It was just about trying to let us live together. And they were interested in making songs that resonate with all class of people.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
am happy. I am happy to have been a part of that company. You know what I mean? Because I learned so much, and I still carry their memory. Of every
Yeah.
time a song or something comes up, I remember them. Because
Yeah.
of how important they were to my upbringing, and to because I grew up
Yeah.
listening to them, and then come to work with them. I mean,
Yeah.
look at one of the biggest song right now is One Love. People singing One Love all over the world. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it don't get better than that. One Love, One Love. A whole stadium in Europe
Yeah.
somewhere. Everybody singing that. That to me is very, 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 very important.
Mhm.
You know? Yeah, man.
Yeah, for sure.
A
And I
wonderful thing.
I think coming back to Mama Africa, the other thing I wanted to point out, because having listened to the whole record now, I would say probably my favorite song on the album is actually "Feel No Way,"
Oh,
and I believe that Sly Dunbar that played the drums on that
yes,
song.
yes. Slide on bar,
Hmm.
play drums on that one. Yeah.
And he and Robbie Shakespeare were on a few songs on this record as well.
Yeah, I think Feel No Way.
I can I'll pull out the liner notes here.
I don't remember it.
Let's see. So it says that they are on Stop That Train, Peace Treaty, and Feel No Way.
Right.
So yeah.
Because they had recorded those songs before, and then he put them onto that. Yeah, they weren't on the same session. Those are the stuff that he had before, and he just put there. Yeah,
I gotcha. Yeah, those are. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, Sly and Robbie are probably one of the most iconic rhythm sections in reggae. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to give that to them, man, because I mean, they form a great team, and with the two of them, it was just fire, So,
yeah.
You have to give Robbie gone, but because I used to, Robbie and I used to do a lot of studio sessions before he started working with Sly,
Mm-hmm.
So, but then when he and Sly got together, then it was just pure fire,
Yeah. All right, Santa. Well, we have reached the end of the interview. I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast today. An amazing career, and it was really awesome to get to speak with you. And, if you're listening to this, go and they're coming to your town, go see Ziggy Marley and Burning Spear. I believe the tour starts in September.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Man, it's been my pleasure, man. And thanks for inviting me to, do this wonderful interview. And I hope what I said makes some sense and enlighten people, But it's, I say, it's just our love, That's our love.
For sure.
Peace. We need love and peace, more love and peace in the world today.
I agree. Yeah,
and that's what
for sure.
That's what we push out there, love and peace. Yeah, for everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to another episode of Guess That Record. Make sure to leave a 5-star review wherever you listen and tell your friends to check us out. I also want to shout out our radio partners currently airing Guess That Record as a syndicated show. CKMS in Kitchener, Ontario, CKXU in Lethbridge, Alberta, and South Devon Sound in Kingsbridge, UK. This summer, Guess That Record will also be airing on KVCU Radio 1190 in Boulder, Colorado. So if you're in those markets, be sure to check those stations out to hear the show. If you're with a radio station and you'd be interested in adding Guess That Record to your programming, send us an email to guessthatrecordpodcast@gmail.com. We'd also appreciate it if you follow us on Instagram and TikTok, where our username on both platforms is @GuessThatRecord. And lastly, subscribe to our YouTube channel to see the video versions of these amazing interviews. Remember to keep rocking, and we'll see you on the next episode of Guess That Record.